So today we're going to talk about reading as part of your morning, and you may or may not know I work in libraries, so I am a really big fan of reading, and I've always been a reader throughout my life, and not just as a reader, but I love books themselves. So I collect books even though I don't read them, and I collect them as part of the decor of my home, really, just to have that sense of this sort of escape or wisdom that sort of surrounds me, and that really makes me feel good to have books in my life. Not everybody is like this, and obviously it's not a right or wrong. You're not going to be smarter just by having books, because if you don't read them or you don't implement the wisdom in them, it's not going to be a here or there. But to me, a book is something that's just, I was reading a little bit before about how the writing of a book is a very solitary action. Like when writers sit down to write, it's a solitary action. And then the reader, that's a solitary action as well. When you sit and read, you're in your own mind. Sometimes you can read with others, or maybe in a club or a book club, you express your feelings about a book. But ultimately, it's a relationship between you, the reader, reading solitary, with the writer that's also been in a solitary practice. So it's quite a relationship that's sort of unmatched to any other. You know, you don't know the author, or maybe you do, but generally we don't know them personally, but we can really come to understand their point of view and their perspective. And when I'm talking about reading in spirit mornings, I'm not talking about fiction. So fiction's your stories, your crimes and your thrillers, something to sink your teeth into and give you a bit of or maybe it's romance, or maybe it's whatever genre you like to read. But as part of a spirit morning, it's more about looking into self-help books, things that are going to inspire you. Maybe there's a spiritual text that you're drawn to, or maybe it's a version of a spiritual text. Like I love David Mitchie actually sort of puts an ancient spiritual text in today's language, and that I can relate to, whereas the spiritual text itself I couldn't, but I love the wisdom from it. Also inspiring biographies. If you like reading biographies, can be like reading a story, and you can just feel really inspired by hearing other people's stories at such an in-depth level. You feel like you've connected. So there is a lot of space, like a lot of scope to read and find something that you really love. So one of the biggest proponents of reading in, the general mainstream is Oprah Winfrey. She's got her own book group. She's always had on her show, she always had authors, and she really loved to promote the written word. And she said that reading is a way for me to expand my mind, open my eyes, and fill up my heart. And I really love that. That's what reading is for me. It helps you see other perspectives. It helps you open your eyes to what you might not even think of. And often, if you feel inspired by a writer or a topic, it can really start to fill up your heart. You start to sort of connect to your truth and your purpose. So it can be quite a profound shift when you read words that really touch you at your heart center or your soul. So I've just got a couple of points here, right? Reading matters, and I've just talked about, changing a different perspective. Sometimes it can just help to see someone else's perspective on something that you hadn't considered. And sometimes there can be a real shift in belief just by reading someone else's view of the world, and it helps you become more flexible and open to others. It can provide inspiration and knowledge. You can actually learn stuff from books. It's not all just about being inspired, but you can be inspired as well. It allows you to seek the wisdom of others. You can sit down and read books by the Dalai Lama, and that if that appeals to you, you might see that as a wisdom-based text. Can also help you interrupt negative thought loops. So I don't know about you, but when you kind of get in that state of worry and something's really churning on you in your life, and it's really hard to break it, Like you go to bed and you think about it, and then you wake up and you're thinking about it. And sometimes reading a chapter or reading a couple of pages out of an inspiring book or something with a different perspective can just shift that a little bit. So it kind of interrupts the loop. It breaks it down for just a moment. And it gives you kind of that space to look at maybe sometimes, they say when you've got a problem and the time that it resolves itself is when you stop thinking about it. So sometimes getting engrossed in something else can help you solve a problem by letting go of the thinking about it. So to me, books and reading has all sorts of benefits. And I've just got a couple of tips about choosing and reading in regards to spirit mornings. So obviously, if you're choosing your fiction reading, your stories, this isn't about that. You just go with whatever your mood takes you with that. But when you're looking at your spirit mornings, I do recommend having a couple sort of close by. And I'm going to go through the pile that I've got by my side in the mornings at the moment. And this changes obviously as you read different books. But think about what you're looking for. Is there a subject that you want to dive deeper to? Is there something someone said, oh, this is a really great book, it helped me do this? Is it, the promotion that's been around a book and you go, oh, I really would like to read that? So there is literally thousands and probably millions of book titles available to you. So there literally is a book on every subject you could possibly want. So, explore, and, if something doesn't suit, if you utilise your public library, if you start reading it and you go, well, nah, I'm not keen on this, you just put it aside, return it and try something else. So yes, I've put utilise your public library because I'm a big proponent for that because I work in them for a start, but they're just such a wonderful resource. It's like going shopping, and then if you don't like it, you just return it. Or even if you do like it, you return it or you borrow it again. So yeah, having a couple on the go for different moods. Like sometimes I'll have a business book and a spiritual book by my side, depending on what I've got going for the day. I might want a bit of a business boost or whatever it might be. And I like to have notepad or journal handy for insights. And what I actually find super useful for this is the checkout slip that you get from the library. So when you go to the library, they print out a little checkout slip, and I find they're the perfect size for quotes and stuff. So I've got a little pile of library checkout slips that have got all these little insights and quotes on. But maybe for you, that's your journal or a little notebook or something like that. So yeah, so just think about what that is for you.